Dylan, it's the end of term. I hope if you're listening to this on a Friday morning, it's your last day, you're driving into work maybe, just know this is your last day. You get 6 weeks off now to relax.
You did it, and we've been off for 2 days already. So,
and we have been loving it. I thought we were going to pretend that we're also in today. We're not.
Yeah, they can see our suntan. We've been out in the sun the last couple of days. Just having a mini breakdown though, Hayden, that we didn't do the intro that we always do every single time. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to jump in right now and say hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
Thank you. Now I feel much more comfortable and you can carry on.
I was going to do it, but I actually knew that you would feel really uncomfortable if I went, hi everyone, welcome to Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name's Hayden.
That's you, but you said the first. That's enough said, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, maybe one day I'll get the limelight. I'll be lead anchor.
It's not even about the limelight, Hayden. If you've done it every single time ever since, like I'm the kind of guy who goes to a curry house and I get the same curry for the 15th time in a row. So it's that kind of a deal.
Isn't that just called being really, really boring?
Good one. And the great thing about that is I know exactly what you would have said if we weren't on the podcast. So I can take boring, much more watered down. Thank you.
Ooh, leave that one to the viewers' inference skills.
Infer as you will. Anyway, we've got an amazing podcast lined up for today. We're talking to the amazing Rob Smith, as you've seen from the title. Lots of excitement around this, Hayden, from people I've spoken to who can't wait to listen to his journey, building Literacy Shed, which I think a lot of people use in their schools. So it is a fascinating chat. But as always, we just want to have a little bit of a touch base with each other and with our listeners, our viewers, whatever you want to call them. Hayden, the last week of school, I know you didn't want to go into much detail this week, but what went on?
Well, my week's been great. I don't want to say too much because next week, guys, I'm just saying this now, got a really juicy episode and I'm saving loads of funny bits, basically, for that one. But I will talk about one thing, and it's a story that involves you and I, Dylan, and I've been dying to tell this story because it is... that will mean something in a minute. It is the most awkward I've ever seen Dylan. Now, Dylan is quite an awkward person anyway in certain situations, and you are.
Excuse me?
You are. You get well awkward.
I don't know what you mean.
You're just awkward. But this was so good. It was a proper like a TV sketch moment. So I was in the staff room on Monday morning. We had our little morning Monday briefing, and
morning Monday briefing.
I know I'm doing a U here. I'm trying to think of a phrase you get wrong. Anyway, so Monday briefing, and sat down on a chair. Dylan walks in. And there were two members of staff in there, both wearing a black dress, right? And Dylan came in and someone commented on the fact that they're twinning and they're like, wait, the exact same black dress. And he was like, oh yeah, who's died? Making a joke because they're both in black. Literally one of them is going to a funeral. That's why they're in the black. And I said, oh yeah, literally her granddad. So Dylan, make me be a bit more sensitive there. And he went so red and felt so awkward. And it was such a perfect little moment that I got to relish in watching him squirm out of that. You dug some sort of hole afterwards. I can't remember what you said, but I was thinking, stop now. Stop, you've already...
The only thing I could think to do was to like double down and be like, try and carry on the joke. Worst thing, don't do that. Don't carry on the joke when it's real. Don't do that.
No. So... to be honest with you, that's all I want to share about this week because it was just such a cringeworthy moment at your expense.
I actually remember what I said. So there was one who was going to the funeral. So I turned to the other one and said, oh, well, why are you wearing black then?
Yeah, that's it. Just insult the other person.
What am I doing? Why am I trying twice to get it wrong?
Yeah, it was terrible. And they're probably both listening. So sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. We just did it again. So thanks, Hayden, for doing that double dose.
I'm really sorry on his behalf.
I'm not taking the blame. The good thing is, lovely people. Knew it wasn't on purpose. Nothing malicious, was it?
Nothing malicious.
I just carried on double down afterwards because I was awkward.
But then you were being malicious. No, the first bit wasn't malicious. Second bit was.
Then I found out there was something to be malicious about, and I thought, I'll go for that.
Carry on.
No, not at all. But, really awkward, and one of those moments where you just don't want to be inside your own body, and I didn't know where to turn. I turned to you, and I was like, "Haha, can you please say something?"
I know you've got a story. Go on, tell us what's been going on.
It's just a brief story, because like you, I think we'll just dive deeper into that kind of stuff next week. And last week we talked about gifts, didn't we? And the awkwardness of like posting your gifts and stuff. So I'm about to tell you all about my gifts that I got this week, because there was a theme that came out. Essentially, men, if you're listening to this, you're a male primary school teacher, you know the whole palaver. We've done a whole episode on being a male primary school teacher around the dress code and how it's very hot at the minute. And, formal shoes, socks, trousers and shirt tucked in It's quite a warm outfit. So I've been trying to think of ways to kind of push the boundaries as much as possible. And that included me wearing chinos, rolling up the bottoms, having some kind of summery boat kind of shoes, and what seems like no socks, but in fact, those little pop socks you get, that go around your toes and around your heel. So you actually are wearing socks. Okay?
Ones that fall off your heel and roll down your foot. Do you ever get that?
Exactly. That's why you've got to get that gel. I've got ones that have gel at the back and it sticks to your skin.
I
and it
hate
stays
them.
there.
Hate them.
Little bits of gel. Get the gel, mate. It won't fall down. Get the gel. It stays exactly where it's meant to be. Anyway, well, you've got your extremely sweaty skin, so I can see why it doesn't work for you. So I'm wearing that, and obviously, whenever a man comes in wearing something different, it becomes quite a thing, doesn't it? It's like, oh, look at your ankles. And you come in. You asked me the other day, can I lick your ankles? Like, what are you on about? I was like, well, I can see them. That's a good one. Really good joke. Well done, Hayden.
I was trying to make you laugh.
Yeah, it was relatively funny. But when you're like the 7th person in a row to comment on the fact that I'm wearing sandals, I'm like, they're not even sandals. Have you seen this person's wearing a vest with some flip flops on? Like, can I not wear some boat shoes, please? Like, it's quite hot.
I can't help it. Those sweet little ankles out. I just wanted to make you feel really self-conscious.
Well, bloody work, Aidan. Well done. Anyway, so one of the teachers has taken it upon herself to make a point of the fact I need some socks for my upcoming 30th birthday, which is very soon. I was like, okay, brilliant. Anyway, so I come in the next day, on my table, a 5-pack of Primark socks, which are bright blue, bright red, all these crazy patterns. I was like, ha, good one. It turns out as well, I heard from someone else in school that she's been spreading the good word with the parents of my class that I need some socks. So I come into school and I have at least 3 parents have gifted me socks. Some novelty. I've got them on right now. I was going to show the viewers. So here's something you might want to do if you're not on YouTube or on Spotify. I'm going to try and get my leg up to the size of my to the height of my head right now.
Good luck.
So Hayden, can you just entertain people while I'm trying to just get into position?
Yeah, guys. If there's lots of weird cuts here, it's because Dylan's taken 17 attempts to get his leg up and show the sock. Oh, luckily
it's the wrong side.
He's shown the wrong side of his sock after all that. So I've been entertaining you for 10 seconds now. Here he comes again. Look at him gurning, trying to move his leg. Look at him. Oh, the struggle. Right, Dylan, do you want me to tell them what's on your sock? Or might keep him there a little bit longer, actually. If you're watching, he's struggling a lot.
Please, if you can hear me, please.
So tune in to the video. You can check us out on... No, I'm not really. I'm not going to do our socials. I don't know them anyway because they're all different. There's a gherkin, on his sock. And Dylan will explain why. Have you told them why you're gherkin? You did, didn't you?
I don't know.
Did you not?
I don't know. I've told the children. I don't know if I've told the teach, sleep, repeat massive, as we like to call them.
Brief story?
Very, very brief story. When I was younger, I played cricket and I went out to bat and my coach had a McDonald's burger. Didn't like the gherkin. Thought, where can I put this? Put it on top of my helmet. I went out to bat. We played very well that game. We won the match. From then on, I was known as Gherk. I was known as Gherkin. I thought, at the start of the year, getting to know your class, the kids will love this. They'll love this story. So I told them it. Children called me Mr. Gherkin for about 6 weeks. There were some children who did it funnily, but then some children after 3 or 4 weeks who literally felt like they'd forgotten my name was Mr. Price, and they'd come up to me like, Mr. Gherkin, I'm a little bit stuck on my work. Like, it wasn't even a
serious question.
Like, it was just a serious question. Not even trying to make me laugh. Just like, I'm really stuck on my work, Mr. Gherkin. I was wondering if I just did this instead. I was like, okay, so this is the thing. First parents' evening, I had at least 4 parents come up to me and say, oh, I've heard all about you, Mr. Gherkin. And I was like, cool, brilliant start to the year. Brilliant. It's stuck all year, and I've had socks with burgers on because gherkins are in burgers. I've had socks now, obviously, with a massive gherkin, just doing a dance on the side. So it's really stuck, which is lovely. But yeah, there's a whole sock theme going on because, I don't know, I like to not be swelteringly hot in the heat, But today I promised I'd wear one of the socks, and it was the gherkin one, got the nod.
They did look good. I was quite happy to see you flashing your ankles today with the gherkin socks, stretched across them. They look brilliant.
Okay, don't get too much of a sweat on seeing my ankles, mate.
Well, you got a sweat on trying to show your ankles, so...
I can't wait. That footage is going to live on. I'm going to screenshot that and put it on our Instagram, which you can find at Teach, Sleep, Repeat Podcast.
Go on, do them all. Where's the socials? Keep going.
Teach SR Podcast on Twitter and Threads, and you can Gmail us on our email, that is on Gmail, at teachsleeprepeatpod@gmail.com.
Well done.
Anyway, Hayden, we're stalling here. We've got an amazing chat coming up. We always do this. We chat and chat and chat. They aren't here for us this week. It's a purple thumbnail. They're not here to talk to us and listen to us. They're here to listen to Rob.
No, exactly. I'm delighted to be introducing a very important man who's joined us today, Mr. Rob Smith, who most of you will probably know from Literacy Shed. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today. How are we doing?
Very good. Yes, I'm still in work. I'm still in the Literacy Shed offices, and I've just been wrapping birthday presents for the last hour and a bit. So I said to my wife, I'll stay at work and I'll wrap all our 7-year-old birthday presents for his birthday on Saturday. So that's what I've been doing. So it's just it was a nice little segue into this podcast.
Oh, amazing. So you managed to get some jobs done, but not actually get home.
Yeah, I've been home.
Perfect.
It's literally 1,000 meters down the road, so I could walk home, but some things to do.
Oh, that's cool. That was going to be my next question. How close are you from your offices? But you clearly you got that down to a T.
I was one of those people that moved out who got an office during lockdown because I got 3 boys, so they were like at the time they would have been 4, 6, and 10-ish, and I used to shout in the morning, "I'm going to work, bye," and then lock myself in my home office. They soon they get used to that. So this office came up for rent, which is literally an old mill, about 1,000 meters from the house. So I walk down in the morning. It's quite nice.
That's perfect for you then. It looks like you've got another desk behind you as well, so it's not just you here, not two alone.
There's 4 in here. There's another office next door that seats 6. So
Well, hopefully we can dive into that kind of, the ins and outs of this, because I think it's a really popular online portal and where a lot of teachers access it. So it'd be nice to kind of, peek under the cover and how it all works. But before we do that, I do like to come in and just do my very, very unique game, Rob, which is I simply say a word and you have to just simply say your first reaction. And we've done it a few times with other guests. We always do an example with Hayden. So, for example, if I said to Hayden, shampoo, his first reaction to that word would be?
Unnecessary.
Exactly. So it's just whatever you think your first reaction is. Again, don't overthink it, because we have sometimes people think phrases, I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong thing. No problem. Just the first thing that comes into your head. You all good?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. 10 things. Here we go. Writing.
Fun.
I agree. Reading.
Also fun.
Yes,
Can I do the same thing twice?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. They're both fun. That's absolutely fine. Hayden put this one in. It interested me. TikTok.
I've never used it.
I'm with you.
I'm with you. I find it odd. TikTok.
Yeah, okay. Maybe Hayden can come in after us just to wipe it in, because I saw it and I thought, okay, I'll go with it.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Next one. Schemes of learning.
Useful.
Maths.
Tricky.
I'm getting a vibe here. SATs.
Misused.
Oh, good. I like that answer. Teacher wellbeing.
Important.
Yep. This was a controversial one. I snuck it in there. Strikes.
Necessary.
He's one of us, Hayden. He's one of us. TAs.
I was going to say salt of the air.
Yeah. I love that. And the last one, it's always the same. So we'll know what's coming, all the listeners. Ofsted.
I was going to swear then.
That's it. That's the answer.
I was going to say, well, no, misused.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a much nicer version of what you were thinking, what maybe we were all thinking. That's fair enough. I will just dive into TikTok very quickly, and then I'm going to ask you about your SATs answer. The reason I put TikTok in there is I thought it'd be interesting, because I know you've got younger children as well, and you probably know that TikTok is so rife at the moment. I find it is anyway, as a year 6 teacher, with kids at school. Like, it's such a problem to us sometimes as well, like with children trying to use it in school, and it's all they want to do and talk about. So I don't know if, with young children yourself and also being involved in the educational world, if you've ever come across any issues with it.
So my eldest is 13. We've had a couple of issues, just where when he was a bit younger, saw things that we wouldn't necessarily want him to see. He don't use it very often. He's more of a Snapchatter, WhatsApper type person, and PlayStation chat. Some of the things that I think gets on my nerves about, not gets on my nerves is the wrong word, but frustrates you with it, is that they're experimenting. They're 13, but I saw a chat the other day where him and his friends, they're all lovely lads, but they're all swearing on. It was a PlayStation chat which pops up on my phone, and they're all swearing. And I said to him, "That's written down." I said, "All it takes is for someone's mum to Snapchat it, send it to school or to your parents. Everyone sees it." I said, "But when we were children, we were experimenting in a bus stop or under a lamppost in the rain, and we'd still do the same swear words, but nobody else could hear it or see it. So they've got to do all this stuff that we were doing private or in the middle of a field or face to face. They're doing that in a public forum that anyone could take and manipulate. And for me, that's the issue, not some of the things they're doing can be manipulated, taken out of context, and used against them. So that's the thing that frustrates me about it. When they do silly things like that, it's there forever.
That was my next point. It's there forever, isn't it? And I think some of the children at school, I always try to get that point across, and they just go, well, whatever. They don't really seem to listen. But I do worry sometimes that they're just getting themselves, like you said, there's content on there that maybe isn't appropriate for them. And I find it a battle personally, talking to children and even families sometimes, trying to convince them that maybe there should be some restriction here. So that's why I chucked that one in. But more interestingly, when I asked when Dylan said SATs, you gave an interesting answer about SATs. What could you expand a bit more into your feelings around SATs and how they're misused?
I just think it's the whole accountability thing. I think children need to be tested, and low stakes testing is fine. Even end of year summative testing, just to give you a check, and gap testing or whatever, that's fine. But then to use it for high schools to set, using it to test progress at the end of year 11, check progress against EYFS, it's just not a very good measure, is it? And then all that pressure on teachers that may exist in some schools, doesn't exist in other schools. It's just too much. So yeah, do a test, do that reading test. Just don't make it the be all and end all of the whole of their school career. A single reading test about bees or about caving. That was the last one I marked. Dingley Dale.
Don't bring up the bees.
But test them. It's fine. Do a writing test if you want, but just don't use it as this is just some of your schooling it by the age of 11.
It's such a good point, because with testing, I've always found it a really interesting conversation, because I've struggled when people jump straight to abolish the SATs, like abolish the idea of testing, too much testing in Key Stage 2, because I think testing in general has such a good place in our profession, in terms of, like you said, filling in gaps and seeing what children can do. So I think there's like a middle ground where most people, I think, are, but you do get those extremes on either side, don't you? Of maybe the government saying it's the only way to do this, and then other people saying no, we can't do it at all. I think if we just scrapped SATs, it would be to the detriment of our children, to be honest with you, or that idea of testing rather.
But I guess they like to be tested, though. If kids like quizzing, kids, they like watching quiz programs on TV. They'll do quizzes. They get tested all the time on computer games. On the PS5s, they're being tested every day. Can you get better than the score you got yesterday? Can you beat the score you did yesterday? So it's not an abhorrent thing for them to be tested. It's just that pressure that they're put on by parents as well, just not by teachers and SLT and Ofsted or whoever, but also by parents who I think just sometimes don't understand. When I taught year 6, they were like, well, he needs to get this test mark. And I'm saying, you're the only person pushing it. No one else is that bothered.
Yeah.
So... it's just about that accountability thing, I think, is misused quite a lot. And especially when it's all put on the year 6 teacher in September, and it's
so true.
Their progress report at the end of it. Have you got this many children? And I used to say...
And it's a Key Stage 2 paper,
yeah,
isn't it?
It's everybody.
So, Rob, I've been a big fan of you for a long time, and the things you've done. So, it's really nice for me to be sat here right now talking to you. But I don't want to come across like that, in the podcast. But what I want to get...
Too late.
Yeah, what I really want to ask you really here, I suppose, is for our listeners, I imagine a lot of our listeners will know you or know of your work, but we also have quite a few listeners who aren't in the teaching world as well, who are just interested in hearing sort of insights into this kind of completely different world to maybe what they work in. So I was hoping we could just dive back into your life a little bit and maybe go a bit back in time and just find out, your roots in the teaching world. Where did you begin? Were you a primary school teacher at the start before you dived into sort of literacy shed world? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, I was a primary school teacher. I went to do my A levels, and at the same time I was playing rugby league for Salford City Reds. I was in the A team academy, then the A team, now the under 21s, and
Amazing.
I think I wasn't doing a PE level. I was doing chemistry and history. I think are the ones that I dropped for PE when my PE teachers, rugby coach said, because you played for Great Britain, you get an automatic A in your practical, automatic A star, and that means you don't have to take the exam, you'll still get a C. So at the end of the year, I dropped history and French and chemistry and took PE and English instead. And then it came to end of A levels. I was one of those boys that didn't really know what to do. I'd done some work experience in a solicitor's office and hated it. I thought I could play rugby, but then rugby league salaries were about 10 grand a year at the time. So I thought I'd go to university. And I was going to go be a PE teacher, secondary. And the PE staff at sixth form said, I think you'd like primary. So I said, why did you think that? So I don't know who's because they didn't think I was very good at PE. So I went and did primary.
Maybe you could do a bit of everything.
Yeah, I thought I'd go and try it. And it was one of those, you'll be ahead in 10 years. You know, that type of conversation that's happened with men that want to go be primary school teachers. And loved it. So I went and I was at Northampton Uni for 4 years, did a BEd with primary education specialism. And I got my first job as an NQT in Kettering in Northamptonshire. And I was there for 3 years. Loved it. Said yes to everything. Did the after school clubs, knitting club, multi-sports club, everything. Whatever. If anybody said to me do this, I said yeah. I went to a PTA meeting, and the head said, just come. I need another teacher with me to come. So I went to the PTA meeting where the head proposed me to be the chair of the PTA. And someone seconded it, and no one voted against it. So I became the chair of the PTA as a single fella, just straight out of university. So it was just so I could go to the events and lock up after the discos and stuff, I think.
Yeah, literally. He just thought, this is a guy who's going to say yes. Come along, mate. Come on.
It was just one of those things. It was a really deprived area. The kids were amazing. I was a year 6 NQT.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a tough start.
It was great. So I remember the first day, he said, it's a bit, I think the head said, it's a bit rough around here. We had an armed siege last year. And we had to take all the children away from a gunman through the playground into the park at the back with ladders over the playground. So that was the type of school it was.
So,
wow.
What area should I avoid? Sorry, what area was this?
I was in Kettering. Kettering's a lovely place. It's just this.
Okay.
Just I think one street. I bet it's lovely now. This was 20 years ago.
Yeah. What an introduction to teaching, though. So signed up to the PTA, dumped into year 6, and made to be careful of armed raids.
It was that school where Jay Considine was the school improvement officer. That's it. She came in.
It's a small world.
I was NQT, and she was delivering English lessons in my classroom with me. So yeah.
Oh no way.
Yeah, 20 years or something. So.
Do you remember? I just want to touch back on what you said, because I remember that exact moment as well, where primary was kind of not pushed on me, but kind of suggested. I never really thought to myself, I'm going to be a primary school teacher. I kind of fell in and did history at university. Went to my secondary school to watch some history lessons because I thought, I might become a history teacher, because what else do you do with a history degree other than teach history? So I went into my secondary school, and as part of that, I had to do 5 days in a primary school, and I don't know why. I don't know why. And I thought, do I have to? And someone said, just go along, just go and do it. And it's that weird moment when I stepped in and I just thought the vibe and the feeling was completely different. And it was just this moment where I realized, this is what I want to do. And was it as quick as that for you, or did you take a bit of convincing?
I think that's what I was going to do. Because I didn't have any other things in my mind what I was going to do. And then I just started looking at universities that did primary education. I've literally had no other fallback really, and the subjects that I'd taken were all, English lit. What do I do? Do you know? It's not like I've done chemistry, I'll be a chemist, or I've done French to be a linguist. It was like I've done English lit and PE, and sociology. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So you could be the head of a PTA. That's
That
it.
was
That's
it,
what
yeah.
he's on,
So,
honestly.
yeah, it was the best thing I've ever done. I mean, I've lots of lads I played rugby with at university went on to become primary school teachers afterwards because I don't know what to do. And I said, go be a primary school teacher. It's amazing.
It is one of those jobs,
best
isn't
job.
it? Like a lot of people from all different walks of life can go into it. And if anything, we encourage that because we want, we actively need people in this profession from all different walks of life. Well, similarly to Dylan, I was in this, like, I went to university as well. I went and did film, radio, and television. So, nothing like his history degree. And got to the end of that, and I was like, cool, I am not cut out for this world in London of like filming and things like that. And I just volunteered at a school, and it's the same sort of thing. Within a couple of weeks, I was like, this is really cool. Like I remember just working with a child, and I helped them. Just as simple as that. I helped them with something, and then they got something. And I was like, wow, that was a nice feeling. That was cool. Like I've never had this before. And then I was just hooked, and went and did a PGCE straight in the game. Never left.
And now here we are striking. So something's gone wrong. I did just want to jump in there, Rob, and kind of make that link because it is really interesting. We're talking about how we started here. It's such an amazing world, and I still think the job's fantastic. And I know you obviously still love what you did back then working with the children. But we're in a situation now where all three of us, we're not full-time teachers anymore. So we've made that transition from a job that we sit and say we love. What kind of... How did you end up in this situation as, the guy who founded EdShed and Literacy Shed? And what made you kind of make that jump? Was it accidental, or was it really a focused path where you thought, I need something else here?
Yeah, accidental. I was teaching. I'd come back up north. All my friends started leaving university, moving away. I'd split up with my partner that I'd been with at university. We'd split up. And so I said I'd go back and live back up north with my parents, which lasted a few days till I moved in with my nan. She wasn't bothered what time I went out and came in.
Brilliant.
So I lived with my nan for a few years and taught back up in the northwest. So I got my first job in Haywood, near Manchester, near Rochdale, and I was a year 6 teacher for a while. Then I was a year 5 teacher back into year 6, where I met my wife. So we're still married. And it was one of those, it was a Christmas party. And then we did our marking over a bottle of wine and things like that. And then in that school, we had an Ofsted. And Ofsted came and viewed my lessons. There was a writing lesson that they thought was inadequate. Followed by a French lesson, which they also said was inadequate. And the head teacher still tells a story that I threw stuff at Ofsted, which wasn't true. So I went and argued my case, and they said, we didn't do any reading. And I said, you were in there when I did the reading. We read a section of Harry Potter. We were writing portal stories. So a bit of Harry Potter, the port key section. Use a little bit of a video clip where he apparates. She said, oh, yeah, you did do reading. You didn't do any writing that lesson. And I said, well, because of a quirk of the timetable of a 2-hour English lesson on whatever day it was, I said, so you missed the writing. You weren't in the lesson for the writing. And she said, well, you could have done much writing in that lesson. So I went and got the books, and the children had written, some of them had written 4 sides of A4. And I remember her face, and she went, she looked through the books like that. She went, you did all that in this lesson? I said, she said, still inadequate. I said, right, okay. What about the French? And he said, oh, that was inadequate because you were repeating some of the language you did last week in French. And I said, because that's how it works. So I said, we're looking at how to buy things in a shop. And last week we were buying vegetables. And this week they're practicing that same language, but they're buying fruits. And he said, oh, yeah, both inadequate. So I was like,
Can you that's crazy. Sorry, can you imagine in any other lesson saying, oh, I need to plan this, but I can't say any words that I said in the previous one? Oh, where does the progression go?
I was just gobsmacked. I literally gobsmacked. And not long after that, they came and it was a new head and they said, have you got your contract? And I said, contract? They said, yeah, your contract. We've stuck it down as temporary. I've been there 3 years.
What? No.
And they said, oh, we think the old head didn't fill out any forms properly. I was like, right, okay, I did have a contract. I said, but I definitely had one because the day I got made permanent, I got a mortgage for a house. So, they said, oh, you have to apply for your job then. That's what they said. And so
That's ludicrous.
it felt like constructive dismissal type thing. So I said, okay, I'll apply for my job. So what I did is I just applied for lots of other jobs in different places. And the day of my interview, there was 2 of us got to interview. And on a day of the interview, I said, I'm not going to come for interview. I've got a new job.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
And then,
I love that. Play them at their own game.
And then they said, have you got a job without a reference? And I was like, because I used other people for reference, because you screwed me over, basically. And
Wow.
I don't know how much of this you can leave in the podcast, but I'm not naming any names.
No,
So,
no, as much as you want, mate. As much as you want.
What we think happened was that those SLT then phoned the school where I'd got a new job. I should have been starting on the first day after Christmas. And that school phoned me on the last day before Christmas and said, we don't want you anymore.
No.
I'd met my class. I'd met my new year 3 class. And they said, so I phoned them up on the last day and said, oh, you've not told me if it's the Monday back or the Tuesday back. And they said, oh, if you've not had our letter, we don't want you anymore.
No way.
Last day before Christmas. So then I had to apply for more jobs.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, so that's crazy.
So I had from Christmas till the February without a job, basically. I'd got a new job, another school that I got without a reference with that school. And and so in that time, when I'd been working at the school, I had a blog that was called Mr. Smith's Weekly Teaching Ideas was it on posterous.com, which was an old blogging site way before WordPress. I'm thinking about 2008, 9, yeah. And people were reading it, like thousands of people, tens of thousands of people a week were reading the blog. And I was just basically saying, this is what I taught today. This is the resources I used. This is the writing we got out of it. This is a nice visual thesaurus, just little things like that. It wasn't like a massive pedagogical approach. It was just basically what I'm doing in my lessons. And I started posting the film clips on there that I was using. I started using film clips early on in my career from like, I think the first one I used was the trailer for Brave, Pixar's Brave. So that tells you when that that came out.
Yeah, wow.
And I started posting the film clips of what I'd done with it and then showing the writing. And so I decided in that half term that I had before I started my new job to turn it into a website. And that was it.
Oh,
so
wow.
Literacy Shed was born in those like 6 weeks between Christmas and February.
Yeah. I feel like I remember.
So all of that kind of came round, didn't it? Sorry, like that's amazing how that story of you at the time must have been so annoyed at that kind of treatment. I can imagine exactly how I'd feel. And then you look back now and you're like, oh, wait a minute, this kind of thing happened because of it. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love for him to have still been ahead, and I could have just, in confidence gone.
You'll see when they purchase on your you'll get an email blank has purchased Literacy Plus, and you'll just let that.
The sad thing is that the school of that, the original school that did that, the teachers used to use it in secret. They used to cut things. They used to cut it off
in secret.
Yeah, they used to all tell me. They always go, "We use your planning, but we cut the bottom off the planning and stuff like that."
Oh my god! Yeah, they cut the inadequate off the bottom despite it being
the
clearly
Ofsted,
good planning.
Ofsted said that writing lesson was inadequate, and I sell it around the world.
Oh, I love that so much. And
That's
you just leave comments on the blog, and you just get one comment every time. Inadequate, like who that is? Someone who doesn't know what they're talking
Somebody
about.
wrote a review report. I mean, I don't bother.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great co-op story. I love stuff like that because do you know what? This is one of those professions where people get a really rubbish deal sometimes. I've noticed that from the Facebook groups that we're all in, and we see each other sort of commenting on the things. And some people are just have a rubbish time and not necessarily at their own fault in any way. And I think it's good for any listeners out there who are maybe just going for a rough patch in teaching to hear that, it's not the end of the game, it's not the end of your story. There are other options out there, and sometimes it's not just you. Like, don't always take it so personally. I certainly could have done with some of that advice earlier on in the career. Like, don't take it all personally.
I mean, I was that one who put my hand up. When they said, "Why are you all marking in black pen in maths?" I'd say, because you said just to mark in pink and green in all lessons, but mark in black in maths. And they said, we didn't. And I'd be like, I've got it written in my diary here, look, staff meeting. You said this. And they said, we didn't say that. And I'd be like, but you did. And I get called to the office then, you're arguing. I'm like,
yeah,
just reading out my meeting notes, And they would just say things like, we didn't say that. Like we had VAC training. And I was like, why are we doing VAC training? It's been debunked. And they were like, it hasn't. And I'm like, Right, okay. So it was me it's probably my fault that I wound them up every time.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing, Rob. We need people to do that, because I've been in those staff rooms as well previously, where you sit there and I think 80-90% of people, not because they don't want to rock, I guess they don't want to rock the boats rather, and they don't want to be seen as the person to kind of say something which we all know is true. You had that moment where you, like what you said there, we're all sat in a room, 20 of us, knowing something is true, and we're being told, literally gaslighted in front of us as professionals that no, it's not true, and they know that 9 out of 10 people won't dare to say anything. And it's people like you and people, I think what Hayden and I have grown into a lot more, being confident and being able to say, no, here are the receipts. Like, it's literally right here. I take great joy in finding an email from 6 months ago, and I will literally just go through the chat. If Hayden says something,
He does
like,
it to me all the time.
all the time. He'll say, I don't think I ever said that, and I'll literally on Messenger, I'll be like, okay, 1 second.
He's
1 minute.
constantly,
and I'll find it from like 2019. I'm like, oh, actually, you said that.
Like things like this,
but you need
we've
that.
used too many pencils, can't get any more pencils. And I'd be like, oh, I've got like 4 left in my classroom. And he'd be saying,
Oh,
yeah,
don't.
but we haven't got any though. And I'd say, right, okay, but I've literally got nothing to write with. And then I'd take the books on a Friday and say, here's my books for this week. You're going to have a look through them. I've not done any work in them. And then like, they would order like 4,000 pencils. And I'm like, well, that must have cost you about 600 quid. You could have just bought 3 packs of pencils. It's just like that.
Do you know,
that stuff.
My favorite analogy on the same sort of light of that is the glue sticks, because obviously, according to teachers, there's a national shortage of glue sticks every moment of every year, and it's constantly a meme, isn't it, in the teaching world that no one has any glue sticks. And I just find it so funny when, and not even just my own experiences, but reflect on everybody when SLT say things like, well, you've had your glue sticks and we can't get any more now until X date. And it's like, my response and my thought to that is, do you want the books to look nice? Because I'm not using these glue sticks for me. Like, I promise you, I'm not taking these home. I don't even care, really, to be honest with you. But if we have a policy of these books looking a certain way, I need more glue sticks. I just find it funny when it gets thrown back on the teachers, as if it's their like personal decision to use the resources.
My thing was always just be reasonable. So they say, like, I worked in a school, you had to hand your planning on a Monday, and then you had to hand in your annotated planning again the following Monday with your new planning. So you had to hand in your planning twice. And they'd be like, well, there's no PPA this week. And I'd say, but so you don't want us to hand in the planning this week? Oh yeah, we still want to hand in the planning. They don't give us any PPA, so I'm not doing it. And I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'd say, where is it? I said, we didn't give us any PPA time. So I didn't do any.
I think you need to be bolshy sometimes. I think you do. I really do.
And like, if they were it, they'd say, "Oh, you're not allowed to go to the dentist in teaching time." And I'd say, "Well, the deputy head went on Tuesday." And it's like, just be fair with everybody. Say you are allowed to go, or you're not allowed to go. And if you do go to deputy head, don't tell everyone you got a dentist. Don't ask the dentist, or I've been a dentist. It's just not on, is it?
If you're going to abuse your position, do it quietly.
That's it. You can say, nobody would bat an eyelid if you said, I was at a CPD course, I was working from home because I need to do some data work quietly. But don't say no one had to go to the dentist, then come in and say I was at the dentist. Like that kid who comes in, they've had a day off, and they come with a haircut, and they say, what was up with you yesterday? And they say, oh, I was really ill. But you went to the barber.
I've got an interesting story for this. Reminds me of something that happened fairly recently, right? And I've never shared this, but it was very bizarre. I had a child come in who was off the day before, and I just, as always, I'm never like trying to catch them out. I just said, "Oh, you all right? Everything all right? Were you poorly? What was up? You weren't in yesterday." Yeah. Just went to a skate park. This was honestly recently, and I was a bit sort of like, okay, I wasn't really expecting that. I said, it was a school day though. Why were you at a skate park? Oh, it's just my bro's birthday. We just went to a skate park. I was like, okay. And I left it there. I was thinking, I'm not going to, it's not the child's, it's not their responsibility really to do this. And so I spoke to the head and they rang the parent just to catch, just to see what was going on. And they were like, what? No, he didn't. He was poorly. I don't know why he keeps doing this. He keeps randomly lying to make me feel awkward and put me in these positions. He absolutely didn't go to a skate park. He was in bed all day.
He was at the skate park.
The next day.
He was at the skate park. He was at the skate park.
The next day, the kid, when I questioned it, he was like, yeah, I just thought it'd be funny to say that. I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, the opposite of how this is supposed to work.
He's that kid when he's older, he'll be going to the dentist and making sure everyone knows about it. Like,
yeah. Oh, it made no sense. Anyways, Rob, You were talking about Literacy Shed, and I remember, I don't know, it must be 9 years ago. So it would have been near the sort of beginning of Literacy Shed, I guess, a couple of years in. And I remember being an NQT, and which is a newly qualified teacher for those listening, because I'm terrible at not explaining my acronyms and things. I was an NQT, and I remember coming across Literacy Shed and thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. Because like you, I really like using visual resources, whether it's a picture or a video, even better. And I can't remember what video it was that I watched. I think it was like a war related one, something to do with like paper, like writing a letter, and within the letter it turns into the war, something to do with that. And it was like, as an NQT, it at that point it was the absolute best writing I'd ever got out of anyone. So I was really grateful for that. But since then, obviously, Literacy Shed has evolved much more. And I was hoping you could just maybe give us a rundown for a start. We can dive into it a bit more later of like what has changed over the last decade, because it's been just over a decade now, as far as I'm aware, since Literacy Shed was born.
So it was born out of the fact that YouTube was banned in all schools. Remember, banned YouTube in every single school. It was born out of that, really. And so I just wanted a place where they would play the videos. So I used to just find videos on YouTube, ask if I could put them onto a website for teaching. And if they got back to me and said, yeah, then I'd put them on. If they got back to me and said, no, I wouldn't put them on. If they didn't get back to me, I'd put them on. So
I love that.
So I know, and people have come back to me since and said, oh, it's brilliant, the website's brilliant. I came across it, I found your email 4 years later, it's fab, and, things like this. So there are student videos, we're not for commercial property anyway, so not really, you don't really mind you just promoting them, to be honest, with a link, say, here's the YouTube link.
There's some brilliant stuff on there, really good.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, I think sometimes it's all to my taste, because people send me videos and say, this would be really good, and I'm like, I don't really like it. It doesn't put it on there. It's crazy, isn't it? So I think there's about 400 on there. I mean, we're getting about 2 million unique users a year. And as a teacher, it was quite nice. I used to get about, depending on the month, between £500 and £600 a month on top of my wages. So it was quite nice. That was it.
Yeah.
And that's all I thought it would ever be, to be honest. And then started talking about asking questions with the films. People say, how do you use it? And I'd say, well, I stop it at 10 seconds and say, who's this? Why is it a shadow? Why have they not shown you the face yet? And then I'd say, why is the sky orange? Questions like this. And children would say, because it's morning, it's polluted, and they'd be making these. And every answer that I get, I say, oh, yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. So imagine that story now. Who do you think that person is? And they'd say, I think it's somebody came back from the war and it's early in the morning. I'd be like, let's write that down. How would we write that down? And we just write from it. And so people said, well, what questions do we ask? So I started writing them, but then it just took up more and more of my time. So I thought I should charge for this because it's my time. I should charge for it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started selling them. I think it was £2.49 for 10 films, questions or something. We had 3 packs of them. And they just started making money. But it became just a real hassle to then get a PayPal, £2.49, send them a file to the email that was on the PayPal, and there was 100 a day or whatever. So that just happened for 2 years, I think. It was just that. And then people started talking about doing CPD. I went to see the head teacher, and he said, you could go down to 3 days a week if you wanted. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go. I was really thinking I could do a couple of after-school sessions and try to get me down to 3 days a week. He said, it's 9,000. Your salary, I think I was M6 with TLRs for responsibilities. He said, you lose 9,000. I've worked it out for you. You lose £9,000 a year. And I was thinking, I would have took that ages ago to do 3 days a week. I'd take that. So I said, right,
Very quickly, Rob, really quickly, sorry, because it's just too uncanny for me not to mention it, because that is exactly what we did. And we had that exact same thought train as you. And I just want to say that for the listeners and people out there, because you said something which so many people have said to me when I explained to them the money situation, because of the way the tax works and the tax, the tax allowance at the start of you don't lose that much money, do you, from going to 2 days down? And the transformation in like well-being and ability to do something else was crazy.
not if you can just make money doing something else. I mean, I don't mean make $9,000 a year, but I know people that do pottery or they do, water. They pursue a passion that gets them a little bit of money, and they just don't lose as much as they think they would have done. They work at a school 3 days a week, and they work in a cafe for 1 day a week, or do tutoring for a couple of days or nights on those 3 days, and they make up most of it, if not all of it. So I did it. This was 2013. I had some facts about. I had some facts about EduTwitter back in 2014. But today, a new shredder arrived at the office. The notes are made about EduTwitter. I've shredded already.
That's brilliant.
Is that a metaphor?
Just put that note. And all it was NFER had written something that in 2012, there was 500 million tweets a day on Twitter, and 4.5 million of them were education tweets. That was in 2012. And they had, at the time, half the number of followers they've got now. So in 2 years, 2014, in 2 years, they've got, I think it was 20,000 followers. And now they've got like 40,000 followers, which shows that at the time in 2012, 13, when I was trying to build an audience, and people find it really hard to build a Twitter audience now. And I think that's why, because there was 4 million users a day. I used to work out for every 3 tweets, I got a new follower in the early days. It's nothing like that because it's such a big platform now. I mean, people were talking about it dying off at that point. 2014, 15, Facebook's going to kill, Twitter. Twitter's not going to be around anymore. And it just grew and grew and grew. So I think it's much trickier to build a Twitter platform now. I think I've got 43,000 followers on Reggie Rob, and I've had that for years now, 40-ish, 41, 42.
Yeah.
It's just not growing because I think people don't follow. Unless you get like a viral post, you just don't get followers anymore. I got 15,000 followers overnight once, and it was a writing prompt, and it was a picture of a raven on a lamppost, like with some smoke around it. And I woke up in the morning with 15,000 new followers, and they were all like pretty genuine followers as well. Because that is what happened in the day. Now people curate it. They don't want to. I post a lot of adverts on there for Literature Shed. I know that people go, I'm not following him. He posts lots of adverts. It's just not the same anymore.
I think the way the algorithm works now with most social media has definitely killed off that like organic idea of like following and liking someone on social media. I think we've even noticed it with our tutoring business. A couple of years ago, Facebook was like our absolute main avenue of connecting with new customers, essentially. And our Facebook followers were going up and up and up. Like quite rapidly, every day we'd get like 10, 20 new people, and they were genuinely interested in the content we were putting out. And I would say the last 2 years, that number barely moves anymore. And despite having the same sort of content and things, because people just don't want to follow. And I think it's because, and I do it, but because there's so many algorithms now that say, oh, we'll just show you things that you'll like. You don't need to follow anyone these days, because if you look at their content once, we'll just put it on your page anyway. Even if you haven't followed them and liked them. So it's definitely so much harder now to build up a genuine audience in that way.
Yeah, it's really hard at it. I always try and find people. What's changed? What's changed Twitter? And I'm like, I type in Jane. It's not got the word Jane in it, so it's not that. Is it? Was it Mrs. something? Is she under? And I just can't find them.
Yeah.
Scroll through messages, try and find them. Oh, there they are. And I can then refollow them. Email them. What is your Twitter handle? I can't find you. Like, we've been friends for 20 years or whatever.
So true.
So I was talking
on Twitter. Sorry, really quickly on Twitter, because I want to... We went onto Twitter when we first started teaching. So we first started teaching about 2014, 2015. I remember we both tried Twitter and we kind of got a bit into it, but it was okay, but you have to kind of, like you said, it was easy to build a following if you like put your mind into it and stuff, but we didn't really dip our toes that much into it. We recently came to Twitter like a couple of months ago, just where we're starting the podcast, and we're like, oh, well, let's link up with people and let's see who's out there. And I was shocked to see Twitter that the main timeline in Twitter now isn't even who you follow. There's a brand new timeline which you automatically go to, which is literally just algorithmic tweets that Twitter thinks you want to see. And I didn't know for the first week that I was looking at a feed which didn't have my followers in it. And I was thinking, I've not followed this. I mean, I've clicked one and this person keeps coming up. And there's nothing to do with education. It was like some kind of, this guy was doing a walk for a charity or something. And I obviously clicked on it once to see what he was doing. And every day at the top of my feed was this guy. And I was like, wait, I'm trying to build up an education thing here. And I'm ending up watching these memes that Twitter now thinks I spend my time looking at, which clearly I have. So it's so true. It's completely transformed. And, we're at the situation where we're trying to, just widen our audience. And it is hard. It is certainly hard. So that idea of, do you think that Literacy Shed really benefited from those early days? Did that help you grow?
Massively. And I remember, this is what I was talking about at CPD. CPD used to be really expensive for schools. It was just cost a fortune, I think. And then I think we were sort of pioneers in bringing the price down. So Lee Parkinson and I, before he was ICT Mr. P, we were on Twitter. We'd been introduced by a mutual friend. And we said, let's do it half a day each. You do the apps and the stuff he's famous for, and I'll do film and writing. They got sort of married together. So he did apps and writing, I did. And we didn't have a website at that point. We had Literacy Shed, but just a free site. Didn't even mention, it didn't really mention CPD, etc. And we just started selling tickets on Twitter. We got a date. We phoned up Old Trafford Cricket Ground, Lancashire Cricket Ground. Beautiful room. And they were like, well, I think it's 35 quid a head and you need 500 quid deposit or something. And we were like, we haven't got any money for deposit. So we started selling tickets in the hope that we'd get to £500. We sold tickets. This was in 2013, I think. We sold 6 or 10 years. Wow. We sold tickets for £185 each. And we got around 150 people rocked up on the day. Gaz Needle that day, Rich Farrow, at Mr. Farrow, at Gaz Needle was there. There's loads of famous Twitter people there as well. And we made like 10 grand each that day. First day.
Oh, that is unreal.
First day.
It's like we'll do this again.
I went back to the school. I said to the head teacher, he was a great head teacher, by the way. I said, can I do more of those days? He said, yeah. He said, do one a term. If you want to do one a term, you can. Just give a donation to the school for the price of the supply. And he said, I'll still pay for your salary because it's really tricky just to get it off and that. So I had to give money to him, to the school.
Wow. Not a bad trade-off. Not a bad trade-off. Here's a set of books.
Rob. Yes, there were about 5 or 6 of those and everyone loved it.
Rob, there's been a donation to the school of 10 grand. Is that? Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry. I just didn't mean to put those extra zeros on there.
But, I mean, the thing is, I never made that much money ever again in a thing.
Right.
First one, you'd become sort of Twitter famous almost, and then everyone had seen it. So, we still got 100. Sometimes we get 80, 90. I think today, though, I'd struggle to get 50, and I think it's just because people can't afford it. 185 quid plus the price of supply was something every school could do 2-3 times a week. Now, they just haven't got they just can't do it. Supply agencies have changed, so they cost you a fortune, and they just can't afford 180 quid for a teacher to go out or 2 teachers. I think the last time I tried to do one, it was 120 quid or 2 for 100 or something crazy.
We've definitely felt that squeeze in schools. Like I can just say from personal experience, I do feel like those opportunities to do that have been squozed, over the years, and because it's just budgets, but they're just not as forgiving as they once were for those sorts of opportunities, which are objectively amazing opportunities that we so should be doing. Otherwise, we're just
COVID gave us a bit of an excuse in school from a lot, I think, to kind of be like, well, COVID, we can't do it. We can't do it anymore either. And I think a lot of people realised actually, with the energy bills going up and stuff, there's not been that money that's come back in. And I think it's been very easy for a lot of schools to kind of well, we're going to buy into this scheme, and hopefully the scheme's self-explanatory, and we can rely on staff in school to look at it in their own time and then kind of deliver that themselves at a much lower quality because they're not the people who designed the things they're actually training them on. So there's definitely been that. I think one thing, Rob, we wanted to talk to you about, because like you said, it sounds like you're quite passionate for that idea of writing, in terms of that's how it all started with the prompts and really engaging the children to want to write, because there's been a lot of things lately, and I think it's to do with the curriculum, and I'm wondering what your opinion is on this, because I think the excitement and the quality of engagement with writing has been in steady decline, in almost the same way as us as teachers have become more and more prescriptive. And I find that as a teacher, I spend most of my time worrying that children have got a fronted adverbial and a prepositional phrase and are mixing their varied sentences with certain conjunctions. And I'm not inspiring these children through choice to create really good pieces of writing. Yeah. I'm wondering what you think, the kind of your opinion on the curriculum and its direct impact on that for children.
First, obviously, there's too much grammar too soon. And I remember being in a HMI meeting years ago when the grammar curriculum came out. And there's two things I always remember. One thing was that the head of HMI at the time, I can't think of her name, I said that she would enjoy watching me read with a group of children for half an hour, and the children all listen to me read and clap at the end when we finish. And I went downstairs and said to I'd asked the same questions to HMI earlier downstairs. And they said, oh, no, you'd have to be asking questions. You'd have to be interrogating the children about what they'd heard read. And I said to the HMI, this is my contrary coming out again. I said to the head of HMI, I said, well, you need to go downstairs and tell the other HMI officers who've just told me something different. And so she was like,
You're not
so
wrong.
I remember that was one thing that was there. And then the other thing was the grammar. There was somebody that had been involved in writing the grammar appendix, which I've always got on my desk, but they have been shredded.
This new shredder.
What else is in this shredder? Yeah, geez.
I'm always looking at year 4 or year 5. Is that a year 5 or year 6?
Careful, your Mac will end up in there in a minute.
It's industrial smoke porn. It's smoking. And he said, it was never supposed to go out like that. That's what he said. It was never supposed to be used as it is. It was never supposed to be a full curriculum. It was never like fully signed off by the people who wrote it. And it was supposed to have this transition into Key Stage 3. And because the funding ran out, I think, I can't remember now. Please, nobody quote me on this who's listening. They never actually enmeshed it into the year 7 and year 8. So some of that stuff that would have moved into year 7 and year 8 ended up just stuck on the end of year 6 because it would.
That would explain so much.
They never had that chance to be drafted into the older year groups. Just like, well, that'll do. Staple it together, send it out. So, yeah, there's just too much you don't need, isn't there? There's just so much that actually as a writer you don't need. Writers manage without knowing these things. Writers manage without putting in colons and semicolons. Who hated colons? Hemingway, I think, was it? But
oh, yeah.
You don't need to. But also what I find is with the curriculum, right, it's fine to have all that kind of stuff. It's fine. But I've observed teachers before where they just say, right, today we're learning about active and passive verbs. And I'm like, is that what you're learning in your writing lesson? You're learning, and they write some sentences. I'm not going to say which is which. They'll say like, the cat was kicked by the person kicked
passive
or whatever. Passive versus
yeah.
And I'm like, they're just random sentences because why is this person kicking a cat? You know, the cat was kicked by the person.
Yeah.
The cat was put in the bin. You know, you're like,
it's Katzuma.
Yeah, what?
Straight in the shredder. Where's the inspiration?
Well, yeah, that is it. So the kids are like, this is really boring. But then, read them the opening to Wild Boy by Rob Lloyd-Jones, and it talks about the fog creeping through the city. The city was smothered by the fog. Well, then at that point, when you go, right, we're going to describe this fog as a creature. It's a simile, it's metaphor. This fog is engulfing the city. When you'll say, look at that sentence, he says, the fog smothered the city. The houses were smothered by the fog. Why do you think that the author, Rob Lloyd-Jones, is put there? The city was smothered by the fog, and here he's put, fog was smothering the city. There's a perfect example of someone who's active and passive voice in a piece of writing, and the kids are going, this is the best piece of writing I've ever done, the best opening to a story ever. And you say, well, we could write that, couldn't we? How could we write it? This is the active, this has this effect, and this is the passive, this has this effect. Brilliant. And then move on. If you write, let's write a descriptive paragraph. Let's have some weather coming in. It could be clouds, it could be fog, it could be rain. Try and make it active, try and make it passive. Here's an example on the board. Right, there we go. Grammar done. That's obviously it's not done, but it's done for that session. And then tomorrow we're doing something else. The new character enters. The boy entered the room. The room was entered by the boy. One of them sounds rubbish, doesn't it? Who says the room was entered by the boy? That's an example of when we shouldn't really use passive voice. Today, right, job done. Let's use active today. That is how you should teach grammar, with very few exceptions, where you go, nobody really understands this. And that, as a teacher, I don't understand it either. So we're going to do 1/2 an hour on it. Use that in your lessons. If it comes up in the grammar test, we're all screwed. But the rest of it should be taught through your reading and your writing, but you're doing something really creative in that writing. Like you're looking at Frank Cottrell Boyce, the opening of Frank Cottrell Boyce's Framed, when he describes the whole town as grey. So I don't know if you know it, says, everything is slate. No. Slate walls, slate schools, slate gates. We've got a slate doorstep and all this. And the whole town is grey, apart from the Elvis mural. That's what he says, apart from the Elvis mural and the cars. And that's the end of the opening, like the end of the prologue. So I said, this is a great way of writing a setting using colour. Let's look at what other grammar he uses. He uses like dashes for pauses in it. So I said, look, why does he use a dash for a pause there? Why have we got this big dash here? We could do that with our writing. Oh, they're done. Taught dashes. So
that is the way, isn't it? That's the way to teach variation, I think, to children in their writing. It's not why we all fall all into this trap, which is we're going to create variation in our writing because today you're going to use semicolons and tomorrow you're going to use dashes. And then your writing is going to be varied. And I think that grammar test
checklist.
It's that looming pressure, the grammar test. Can we stop thinking about the grammar test? We need to be thinking about writing and reading, like you're saying.
But I mean, I've got no problem if we did it. None of the kids put it in. So that is a thing where I think sometimes with success criteria, we say to children, if you want to be successful, you could do this, and then they choose not to put it in. Then you can't really see if they've done it or not. I'll come back to that in a second. But if children haven't got something, do a 5-minute refresher. Do it 10 minutes at the beginning of a lesson where you're going through a PowerPoint. Is this active? Yes. Is this passive? Yes. Is that comma in the right place? Yes. Is that one in the right place? No. Do it on your whiteboard. Show me. Right, 10 minutes done. Let's get on with our reading and writing. Not for 40 minutes or 50 minutes or as part of a carousel. But something that I like to practice grammar with is slow writing, which is a David Dido invention, where you say, in this sentence, you must use 5 words. In this sentence, you must use a word with a tion suffix. So
I've used a bit of that before.
I remember people just arguing about that, saying, "Oh, you're stifling creativity," and it's the opposite. You're actually more creative. It's the opposite of stifling. Because if you say to a child, in this second sentence, you must use a simile or you must use onomatopoeia, then they've got to be creative with what they're going to write. If you say to a child, write with a story of Little Red Riding Hood, they go, once upon a time, there was a little girl and she wore a red hood and she went into the forest and she picked some flowers and saw the wolf and she spoke to the wolf and the wolf said boo and she ran off. But if you say you must start your first sentence with onomatopoeia, and they've got rid of once upon a time already and they go, crash. What was that crash for? They've started with bang. What was the bang? And then you've got to be creative because how do you get the word bang or crash into the beginning of Little Red Riding Hood? Only by being creative. So I love doing that. Give the children some really rigid rules to write by, and they just flourish creatively. And I think sometimes teachers say to me, "Oh, the more able writers find it difficult." That's because they used to just go in blah 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 blah. It's
formula
writing. It's beautiful, but same every time. So here, I think
it's often what separates the expected writers from greater depth. When you go to writing moderation, which I've recently been to, so it's fresh in my mind. And it is because you get those formulaic writers who are incredibly good at just understanding anything you teach them immediately. This is what a simile is. Cool, got it in. This is how you use semicolons. Bang, in there. This is the parenthesis is punctuated like this. Boom, in there, and it's in every single piece of writing. But you can always separate them when you sit there and you look at 2 children. You can separate the children who are very intelligent formulaically and the children who have had exposure to maybe a wide range of books and creative ways of writing sentences, and their work just reads different. And that's we say that's better.
And I always argue that you can be a great writer as a child without necessarily reading lots and lots of books if it's taught well. And I have this argument. I've had this argument, not an argument, that's the wrong word, but I've had this discussion with Frank Cottrell Boyce, with Mad Evans, in the same room as Piers Torday, and they're sat listening to me, and they don't agree. I think they nod and smile sometimes.
Yeah.
I say, you're an author, a world-famous author, and you stand and say to people, because I was just giving all these books to a child. Mrs. Jones used to read to us every day in year 6, and she read all these books, and she shared books with us all the time. And now teachers don't do that. We're losing our writers. And I said, well, so all 30 children in Miss Jones' class are all #1 best-selling authors. They write every day for fun. They continue to write, and they're all amazing authors. No, it's something else. It's not that. It must be. Otherwise, everyone would be an author who was read at primary school. My teacher read his own books. I'm still in contact with him because I went to school with his son. And I always say to him, do you remember when he used to read he wrote a book about bonfire night? And it was all set in around the school. So like the streets where we lived, it was all set in those streets. Amazing. And when we have when I see people in primary school, do you remember that story about bonfire night Mr. Leedon wrote? And he was off ill and they threw it away. Yeah. So, no. But, he inspired me to write by that. But I think if you could do high quality modelling with something that children really want to write about, they don't have to read books. You can introduce vocabulary enough that children could do it. You can introduce techniques enough that children can write well and write to a standard that they're enjoying. I don't think it has to always be from a text. And sometimes I talk about this as well. It's not embedded in research, but I think the research by National Literacy Trust says not all children like reading. I think it says 1 in 10, 19% of children it was, when I last read it, said if the friends knew they read for pleasure, they'd be embarrassed. Stuff like this. So they're not reading. And it's not because everyone's on iPads anymore. It's because they've always not read, Yeah. And people go, and often with teachers go, well, I always read as a kid. And so did I, because my parents made sure I did. But there was other kids in my class did it. My brother didn't read very much at all. He read like Andy McNabb. That's it. Bravo 20 and Chris Ryan. And he's got better as he's become an adult at reading. Not better as in he could always read. He's just got better making time to read. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I've lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
No, it was in general about how kind of you mentioned how you don't need to have to read all the time to be a quality writer, and I think the thing that you're kind of coming around to that I really do believe in from the kind of prompt I said at the start was I think children have to be in a position where they're excited or passionate or have something they want to get down on paper. Something that prompts.
This is what I was going to say about the books. That if children don't like reading, it cannot be a good prompt for writing. Because if you say we're going to write about this book, and a kid goes, "I hate reading,"
true.
We're going to read this, and then you're going to write about it. You're going to read this, then we're going to write about it. They go, "I hate reading." You go, "You can't do because we've got a reading for enjoyment policy." So,
Please don't hate reading.
Then they go, "Well, I don't like writing now either because I've had to read and it's boring. I hate reading, and now you make me write about that boring thing."
Yeah, you're so right. I just my own life, I am that kid. By the way, I did not read at all growing up whatsoever, but I really liked creative writing, and without blowing my own trumpet, I wasn't bad at it. I'm sure there are children that are better, but it doesn't tally up. And I've always had that in my head of me thinking I was quite good at creative writing. I was often praised for my creative writing, and I genuinely never read ever. I never read anything. So clearly there was something else going on in my education that was allowing me to enjoy this process and be good at it. And it wasn't through reading because I didn't enjoy doing it.
Well, people say to me, children can't tell stories without reading a book. So I say, go stand in the playground. Go stand in the playground and watch them play. And one of them's a superhero, one of them's a different planet, one of them's a troll, one of them's this thing, and they're all off the TV or something. When I was at school, we used to play Turtles. And I'd be like, right, you're Leonardo, you're Donatello, I'm Michelangelo, I'm the orange one with the nunchucks, I like pizza. Donatello, you've got the staff, you're the purple one. Raphael, Leonardo, you're going to argue about being the leader. Then we're going to, a girl wants to play. Like, you can be April O'Neil, and you get kidnapped by Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady. They take you over there. We're going to come out the dark sewers. We're going to creep out of the dark sewers. I never read a Turtles book.
No.
In my life. Talk to a kid about Minecraft. My boys now, the younger ones, they'll play Minecraft. They'll say, what's in Minecraft? They tell you this whole story about a map and where they've been and underground lair. And I said, what have you built underground lair for? And they go, well, hide it from these ender things. I don't know all the things. You know, I think sometimes as teachers, because we don't understand what it is that the children are talking about. You know, they're writing a story about creepers and zombies and ender dragons. You go, oh, that's not highbrow enough. You have to write about this thing. You know, I've done lessons where we wrote about mountain biking, where we write about, you've seen all the films on this, all kinds of things that the children have not heard about before. And they love telling stories. We used Titanium, the music video, and it's about a boy that blows up. He's like, but you don't know what he is. You don't know if he's an alien or a superhero. I've had children say to me, he's a ghost, he's already dead. And all these different stories start coming out. And then all I do is help them frame it and say, well, how would you write that?
Absolutely.
How would you write that? And then sometimes I go, that's a bit like this text. Let's have a read of that. This little paragraph here we'll read, because what you're describing there has been described really well by this author. How good's that? And they go, yeah. So why don't you try and write it like that? Get them engaged in it, get them interested in what they're writing about. But then once you've got them hooked and they feel confident, I'm a good writer, and all they've been writing about is, you know, Minecraft and Mario and Sonic and then Fortnite or whatever, and you've got, that's a brilliant piece of writing. Do you think that you could write about this that's not that? You know, it's similar, because where you've got that person rescuing a princess from an ender dragon, could it not be a troll because we're writing fairy tales? Could it not be this because we're writing about this? Oh yeah, it's really easy then for them, because they see what they've done and done really well, and then moved into the realm that you want them to be in, without going, actually, that stuff you do at home isn't worthy. And I think that's what we say sometimes. The literacy that children have at home is often an iPad, a television, a mobile phone screen, and at school we say that literacy you're doing isn't worthy of what we do in school. And we need to say it is worthy. It's some amazing stuff. You could write about it.
So I'd like to bring the kind of conversation round to a closing point, I guess. Something that's going to be useful for... We've got a lot of younger listeners. We look at the stats. It's really interesting. And I think we have a lot of teachers that listen who are maybe at the beginning of their career as well, who I imagine would have just found a whole wealth of valuable points from everything you've just said. But let's try and like bring it together now. And I'm going to ask you a question. It might be difficult to answer succinctly just because there is so much stuff. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of maybe a newly qualified teacher now who is looking at writing like I did and thinking, wow, this is the hardest subject to teach out of all the subjects. Because arguably that's what I think. I think it is the most difficult thing to get your head around as a teacher. If you were just to give them a little bit of advice, a bit of wisdom from Rob Smith's brain, what would that wisdom, what would that advice be to those teachers who are looking to, teach writing well for their children?
I mean, I think it's just don't be afraid to try things out. If I'd listened to the first person that said to me, don't use film, and I still have people say to me, don't use film in your writing, then literature wouldn't be the word it is. And I don't think people around the country would be using films as much as they are now, because the national strategies, remember the national strategies at NNS and NLS, the good thing they had in it, they had a film in year 4, the shirt machine, and the piano in year 5. And I said to the year 4 teacher, do you want to do the shirt machine? She said, no. I said, well, I'll do it. I'll do the shirt machine and I'll do the piano. And I got 2 amazing pieces of writing from it, 2 amazing pieces of writing. And my thing then was, what made that amazing, that writing? Was it the film? So I then used another film. And I still go to schools now and they say every year group does 1 film unit a year. And it's the best writing we get all year. And I said, well, why do we do 1 then?
Yeah, keep going.
So I would be, try things out and be brave. And if someone says, you make that decision, has it worked or not? And if someone says that won't work, then show them a writing and say, has this worked? Look at this writing. Slow writing. If people said to me, that stifles creativity, then I would never do it again if I'd followed their advice. So I think it's that be brave and try it with your class. We've got time to experiment, haven't we? We've got 5 hours a week. If for half an hour something didn't work, God, that didn't work. I've ripped pages out of kids' books and said, right, everybody, that didn't work very well, did it? And they all go, no, Mr. Smith, we found it hard, or it's boring, or like, let's not rip it out quick and let's not tell anybody about it. Because
brilliant.
why does it need to be there? You know, if I've done something terrible, I'll just shred it. So it's not.
You're in the shredder again.
It's not needed. So let's not leave it there. Let's not keep a record of our failures. And, you know, as a group, we can fail. I think, again, it's about building that relationship so you can do that, isn't it? You know, I said to my children, we have to do these things, and it's called the boring things. And people say to me, you shouldn't call anything boring. It's really important. So it is boring. There's 7. You know,
being important and being boring, they're not. You're not one or the other, is it? It can be both.
That's it. We'll do the boring things, and then we'll do the fun bits. You know, we'll do this, and then you get this as a reward. And I don't mean we'll do boring maths, and then you get fun PE. You know, some things in maths are a bit boring, and some things in maths blow your mind. You know, and then I go, well, we have to do this. We have to learn this bit because then we get to do this bit about it. Listen to learners' interests. It's that thing about that home literacy is so important, you know, that home language and home life, and you know, just talking to them about what they eat, what they do at home, what stories they've read. You know, I had children come to me and they say, I've read this story, I've never heard of it before, I've never heard of this book. And they'd say, tell us about it. And they would tell you about it, and then everyone's interested because it's the cool kids telling you about it. And then you read a bit of that book and then write about that. What I would say is, if you think something's boring for you to teach, try and jazz it up so that you're interested and you're enthused about it, because children know that. Children know if you're enthused about it or not. And then hopefully they'll become enthused about it. And don't jazz it up for the sake of it. Do it because it's another valuable learning experience. You know, don't say, right, we're all going to go outside to write today. Go outside because you're describing clouds. Go outside because you're trying to decide, you know, what does it sound like if a plane goes overhead? Can you hear anything? You know, and children go, it was a busy day and the sound of planes were roaring overhead. Well, I say, let's all go outside a sec. Can you see that plane up there? Yeah. Is it roaring? No. What's it doing? Okay. But how could we describe it? Oh, it's got white crisscrosses across the sky. Beautiful. Let's all go back inside, carry on writing. Because it's the point. You know, I'm one of those teachers that Googles in the middle of a lesson. And they'll say, my year 8 boy the other day was writing something, and I said, it doesn't do that though. It doesn't do that, does it? They don't make that sound. They don't, what sound do they make? And I played it, and they went, oh yeah, oh, and they described it a different way. But you know, sometimes they don't know, do they? I taught kids that never been to the park, never been to the beach, never been to a castle, and then you say, right, I want to write about that. I want to write.
That's such a good point.
Year 2, I want to imagine you're a poor person in London in 1666.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I know exactly what that's like.
And you just have that one kid at the back who's actually from London and say, oh, this is what I've been waiting for, guys. Let's go. The rest of the class, no idea. Rob, this is really valuable advice, and echo exactly what you're saying. And I think the idea of building that confidence, for me personally, I felt like my teaching practice improved exponentially after I had that confidence to be like, well, you know what, actually halfway through this lesson that doesn't work for me, and I'm not, you know, bonded to this lesson plan, even though I spent hours maybe planning it, in the moment, building up that confidence to be like, no, actually I'm going to do this because I think that it will have this effect on their writing, on their outcomes. Really powerful thing for and I, just very quickly, Rob, in the last podcast, I said powerful about 7 times, and I've had numerous messages from people saying, was it really powerful, that podcast? So I just had to get it in there again. I think it's a really powerful thing for younger teachers to realise, definitely.
I don't know about you, Dylan, but I feel like I've learned loads just listening to you, Rob. I feel like I could listen to you for another 2 hours, but I don't want to take up all your time. But I just want to say on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for sharing a lot of your story, really, to be honest with you. You're sharing your story. You had a lot of anecdotes that I can tell you're a good writing teacher because I was in my imagination a lot of the time when you were talking, just thinking about what you were saying. And I know that the listeners, teachers in particular, will leave this episode feeling like they can put something into their English lessons. So really, really appreciate that. Thank you for coming on and chatting to us today as well.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot for listening to this week's episode, guys. If you enjoyed it, do give us a subscribe and a rating on your Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And we are back over the summer holidays. We will not stop. Every single week on a Friday, you have a new episode to listen to. Do tune in. See you next time.